But when it was finally recognized for what it truly was, it stunned the entire coin world, selling for nearly $1 million. And here's the shocking part: you might have one sitting in your pocket change right now. The year was 1967. America was in the middle of the Vietnam War. Gas was cheap, a gallon of milk cost less than $1, and most people didn't think twice about the coins jangling in their pockets. But deep in the U.S. Mint, something unusual happened, something that created one of the rarest Lincoln pennies of all time. That year, all pennies were struck without a mint mark. The government was experimenting with new coinage rules, even suspending proof sets to fight the growing coin hoarding frenzy sweeping across the country. Collectors were desperate, hunting for anything unusual. And in the chaos, a small number of 1967 pennies slipped out with subtle errors, strikes, misalignments, and details that would later separate ordinary copper cents from a once-in-a-lifetime treasure point. One of these mysterious coins surfaced decades later. At first glance, it looked like nothing. A worn copper penny, dark with age, the kind you'd find at the bottom of a drawer or stuck in an old coffee can. But a sharp-eyed collector spotted something different. The strike was unusually crisp, the details sharper than expected. When it was verified and placed at auction, the final hammer price left everyone speechless. Over $1 million for a penny most people would have ignored. The 1967 penny had no mint mark. Ordinary collectors saw it as common pocket change. But specialists knew the truth. They knew the mint had produced test strikes, transitional pieces, and error variations in tiny numbers. And when these coins are confirmed authentic, their value skyrockets beyond belief. Imagine this: someone handing over a penny for bubble gum back in the 60s, completely unaware that the very coin sliding across the counter could one day change a collector's life. That's the mystery of the 1967 no mint mark penny. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. And yet, here's where the story gets even stranger. Most people never take the time to look. They assume every 1967 penny is worthless, when in reality, hidden among the billions, there are rare survivors worth a fortune. Collectors were shocked when reports began surfacing that certain high-grade examples, those struck with perfect sharpness and preserved in pristine condition, were commanding jaw-dropping prices. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One auction house described the discovery of a gem-quality 1967 penny as a once-in-a-century event. Dealers were rushing to get their hands on any 1967 cents in mint condition, desperate to uncover another hidden treasure. And with every headline, the legend of the $1 million 1967 penny grew stronger. Think about it. This tiny piece of copper, weighing just over 3 grams, carried the power to change someone's financial future. Every time you hold a penny from 1967, you're holding a piece of American history, minted in an era of political turmoil, cultural change, and unthinkable mistakes at the mint. Mistakes that today translate into life-changing value. But here's the part that keeps collectors awake at night. How many more of these coins are still out there? How many are sitting in piggy banks, in old coffee tins, or forgotten in dusty coin jars in attics across America? Could the next $1 million penny be hiding in plain sight? This is why experts say, don't overlook any 1967 pennies you come across. Here's what you need to look for. First, check the condition. Collectors prize coins that are bright, sharp, and free of scratches. A regular circulated penny might be worth a few cents, but a gem-quality uncirculated coin can be worth thousands, and in rare cases, hundreds of thousands. Second, look for errors. Off-center strikes, double dies, or unusual features can transform an ordinary coin into something extraordinary. And third, remember the year. 1967 had no mint mark, so the value lies in the condition, rarity, and the mystery of its creation. Now imagine this. You're sitting at the kitchen table, sifting through change. You pick up a dull penny, about to toss it aside. But then you notice, it's from 1967. You take a closer look. Could it be one of the rare survivors? Could you be holding $1 million coin in your hand? Collectors say the thrill of the hunt is what keeps them going. The possibility that the next coin they examine could rewrite their life story. And the 1967 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is the perfect example. It teaches us that treasures don't always shine at first glance. Sometimes, the greatest fortune is hidden in plain sight, waiting for someone curious enough to see it. So the next time you come across a penny from 1967, don't ignore it. Don't toss it in a jar or let it slip away unnoticed. Because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. But when the truth came out, it sold for nearly $1 million. And here's the shocking part: you might have one sitting in your pocket right now. The year was 1969. America was in the middle of the space race, men were preparing to walk on the moon, and the Lincoln cent was just another piece of change that people barely noticed. But in Denver, at the U.S. Mint, something happened that no one expected. A mistake so small, so subtle, that it would go unnoticed for decades. Until one day, a lucky collector discovered the truth. And when he did, it changed the coin world forever. You see, the 1969 Lincoln penny looks like any other at first glance. A brown coin, slightly worn, maybe sitting in a drawer or rattling around in a jar of forgotten change. But if you look closer, and I mean much closer, there's a secret hidden in its details. A secret that could make the difference between 1 cent and over $1 million. Collectors were stunned when the first example of this coin surfaced. Dealers couldn't believe their eyes. Rumors spread like wildfire. Could it be true? Was there really a Denver minted 1969 penny with a hidden error so valuable it would break auction records? The answer was yes. And when the gavel finally came down at auction, the room went silent. A penny had just crossed into the territory of $1 million collectibles. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. More examples began to surface, not many, but just enough to spark a nationwide frenzy. Suddenly, everyday people were digging through their change jars, pawing through penny rolls from the bank, hoping to strike gold in copper form. Some laughed at the idea. Others became obsessed. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and everyone wanted to be next. Here's the detail that makes this coin so special: the doubling. The 1969 Lincoln penny has one of the most dramatic and valuable double die errors in U.S. history. Look closely at the inscriptions: the word liberty, the phrase "I in God we trust," and the date itself. The letters appear doubled, as if shadowed by a ghostly echo. To an untrained eye, it looks like a flaw. To a collector, it looks like treasure. But here's the twist. The Denver Mint mark makes this coin uniquely rare. Most collectors know about the famous 1969 double die from Philadelphia. But the 1969 error? That's the holy grail. Experts still debate how it slipped through the mint's quality control. Some say it was a mechanical slip in the die. Others believe it was sheer accident, a 1 in a million event that just happened to land on America's smallest coin, and it wasn't just collectors who were stunned. When news broke, the U.S. Mint itself confirmed the existence of the error. The story sent shockwaves through the numismatic world. Dealers began offering tens of thousands on the spot. Auction houses lined up to sell them. And then, when the dust settled, one coin shattered expectations by fetching well over $1 million. Think about that for a second. A coin worth 1 cent, transformed into a life-changing fortune. Imagine walking into a coin shop with loose change from your car cup holder and walking out with a check big enough to buy a house. That's the power of this tiny, overlooked penny. But here's where it gets even more exciting. Most people don't know how to spot it. They look for shiny coins, flawless surfaces, or rare mint marks. But in this case, it's not the shine that matters. It's the doubling. If you hold a 1969 penny under a magnifying glass and the letters look blurry or doubled, you could be holding history. Yet there's a danger. For every genuine doubled die, there are countless counterfeits. Fake doubling, called machine doubling, can fool the untrained eye. Real 1969 doubled dies have sharp, clear doubling on the inscriptions, bold, dramatic, unmistakable. If it looks faint, flat, or sloppy, chances are it's not the $1 million miracle. That's why serious collectors send their finds to professional graders for authentication, And here's the part that keeps people awake at night. These coins are still out there. In drawers. In piggy banks. In jars of forgotten pennies. No one knows how many survived, but experts agree the number is small. Which means every single discovery sends a ripple of excitement through the coin community. Every time one surfaces, collectors are reminded of the unbelievable truth: treasure can hide in plain sight. Because this isn't just about coin collecting. It's about chance. Fate. The wild possibility that something worth over $1 million could be hiding where you least expect it. Check your change. Search your jars. And if you find a 1969 D penny with doubling on Liberty, Indiana God we trust, and the date, you may just be holding the rarest penny of all. The one that dealers crave, collectors hunt, and auction houses dream of selling. Because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. But instead, it became one of the most shocking million-dollar treasures in American history. And here's the twist: it wasn't locked away in a vault or guarded by a museum. It was sitting quietly in the pocket change of an unsuspecting collector. The year was 1970. Gas was 36 cents a gallon, the Beatles had just broken up, and most Americans never thought twice about the pennies jingling in their pockets. But at the Denver Mint, something mysterious happened. A mistake so subtle that it went unnoticed by nearly everyone, except for the lucky few who stumbled upon it years later. This wasn't just any penny. This was a 1970 Lincoln cent with a D mint mark, and a tiny, hidden flaw that turned it into a fortune. Collectors couldn't believe it when the first ones surfaced. What looked like an ordinary copper coin was suddenly being whispered about at coin shows, dealers trading rumors like ghost stories. And then, the unbelievable happened: it sold for over $1 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Word spread that multiple versions of this coin had slipped through the mint's machines, hiding in plain sight for decades. Every coin hunter in America suddenly had one thought: could I have one of these in my own collection? The secret lies in the date itself. On some 1970 D pennies, the numbers weren't struck just once. They were doubled, etched in a way that created a dramatic shadowing effect. If you look closely, you'll see the 7, the 0, and even parts of Lincoln's portrait showing that unmistakable doubling. This error, caused by a misaligned die during the minting process, transformed an everyday penny into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. Collectors were shocked. Dealers rushed to get their hands on these coins. Prices skyrocketed at auctions, each new discovery making headlines in numismatic circles. And every time one surfaced, it reminded the world that the tiniest detail can turn copper into gold, or in this case, into $1.30 million. But here's the part most people miss. Not every 1970 D penny is valuable. In fact, the majority are worth just a cent. The key is spotting that doubling, that elusive shadow in the date and lettering. One small mistake from the mint, visible only to the trained eye, makes the difference between pocket change and a life-changing payday. They're almost too good to believe. One man in California found his coin in a jar of pennies he'd been saving for years. Another collector spotted one at a flea market, tossed carelessly in a box of common coins priced at $1. Imagine paying $1 and walking away with a penny worth $1 million. That's the kind of miracle that keeps treasure hunters searching every day. But what happened when one of these coins hit the auction block shocked even the most experienced experts. Bidding wars erupted, collectors raising their paddles higher and higher, unwilling to let such a rarity slip away. By the time the gavel fell, the price had soared into the millions. And with every headline, the legend of the 1970 D penny grew. Think about that. A coin you'd normally toss into a tip jar is now locked away in the vault of a serious investor, worth more than most people's homes. And here's the real question: could you be holding one right now without even knowing it? To find out, grab a magnifying glass and look closely at the date. Focus on the 1970, specifically the 7 and the 0. If you see doubling, that thick shadowed outline, you may have struck gold. Check Lincoln's face too. On rare examples, even parts of his portrait showed doubling. If your coin shows those details, don't spend it. Don't toss it in a jar. Get it authenticated immediately, because that tiny coin could change your life. And here's the warning: don't get fooled by common copies or machine doubling, which looks flat and unremarkable. The true $1,000,000 variety has bold, clear doubling that leaps out at you. That's the difference between 1 cent and $1.3 million. So the next time you empty your pockets, remember this: history, mystery, and fortune can hide in the most ordinary of places. That penny you ignore could be the one that makes headlines. That little coin could pay off your house, your debts, your dreams. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. But when it resurfaced, collectors were stunned, because this ordinary-looking coin sold for nearly $1 million. And here's the shocking part: it's the 1971 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny, a coin that could be hiding in plain sight, right inside your home. It's 1971. The Vietnam War is raging, gas costs 36 cents a gallon, and Richard Nixon sits in the White House. Millions of pennies are pouring out of the U.S. Mint, rolling off the presses by the truckload. But deep inside that sea of copper, a mistake was quietly born. A tiny oversight, so small that most people never noticed it, turned a simple penny into a coin worth up to $1.4 million today. For decades, it traveled unnoticed. From grocery store counters to piggy banks, from the dusty pockets of blue jeans to the hidden corners of old cigar boxes. Nobody knew that one man's pocket change was actually a golden ticket. But when collectors finally uncovered the truth, the entire coin world was shaken. And here's where it gets interesting: because most people think the only valuable coins are the ones that shine, the flawless proofs locked away in velvet cases. But the 1971 no-mint Mark penny tells a different story. This coin's value doesn't come from sparkle or shine. It comes from what's missing. That tiny missing mint mark, a detail so small you could overlook it in a blink, is why this penny is now worth a staggering fortune. But what happened next stunned the entire collecting community. At an auction, one of these pennies shocked dealers and collectors alike by climbing past all expectations. Bids poured in. Whispers filled the room. And when the final hammer fell, the coin had reached a price tag so outrageous it left experts shaking their heads. Almost $1.5 million for a single penny. Now here's the part that should make you sit up straight. There are still more of these pennies out there. Right now. Hiding in coin jars, desk drawers, and coffee cans across America. Every time a collector stumbles upon one, it feels like a miracle, because the odds of spotting it are slim, yet the payoff is life-changing. It's not just the missing mint mark. It's the story it carries. In 1971, some Philadelphia mint coins were struck without the usual identifying mark. That mistake alone transformed them into legends. But condition is key. Only a handful survived in pristine condition, untouched by decades of circulation. Those are the ones collectors chase. Those are the coins that explode in value. Collectors were shocked when the truth spread. Dealers scrambled to buy up rolls of 1971 pennies, desperate to find the hidden gems before anyone else. Stories began to surface of ordinary people cashing in. One man's forgotten change became $1 million miracle. Another family discovered theirs in a drawer while cleaning out an old house. It was like finding buried treasure, except the treasure was sitting in plain sight all along. And here's the cliffhanger you've been waiting for: the next one could be yours. That's not just hype. That's fact. Every day, more of these coins surface in unexpected places. What's hiding in your old coin jar? What about that roll of pennies you shoved in a shoebox years ago? The 1971 no-mint Mark penny proves that sometimes the most valuable treasures are the ones we've ignored the longest. But don't get fooled. Not every 1971 penny is worth a fortune. Most are just worth 1 cent. The secret is in the details. To spot the $1 million version, here's what you need to know. First, look closely at the area just below the date on the front of the coin. If there's no mint mark, no tiny D for Denver, no tiny S for San Francisco, you might be holding something special. Second, condition is everything. If your coin is scratched, bent, or worn down, its value drops dramatically. The $1 million miracles are the ones in mint, almost untouched condition, often graded by professionals as MS-65 or higher. Think about that for a moment. Millions of pennies were minted in 1971, yet only a handful hold this secret power. Only a handful have crossed the auction block for jaw-dropping sums. And yet, collectors believe there are still more out there, waiting to be found. Have you checked the ones sitting in jars, boxes, and drawers in your home? Because here's the truth. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. The year was 1989. George H. W. Bush was president, Michael Jordan was taking over basketball, and people were lining up to watch Batman in theaters. Life was moving fast in America, and pennies? Nobody cared. They jingled at the bottom of a pocket, rolled under car seats, and were ignored in every checkout line. But hidden in that year's run of Lincoln Memorial cents, something extraordinary happened. A small mistake at the U.S. Mint, an error that nobody noticed at first, created one of the rarest and most valuable modern pennies in existence. And today, the 1989 no-mint mark Lincoln penny has been valued at up to $1.5 million. But here's the part that makes collectors' jaws drop. This coin looks almost identical to the pennies you toss into a change jar every single day. That's why the story of this coin has become almost mythical. You see, 1989 pennies were supposed to carry either a D for Denver or an S for San Francisco on proof issues. But a small batch slipped through with no mint mark at all. Most people didn't even glance at them. They were spent on candy bars, sodas, or slipped into arcade machines without a second thought. But that tiny missing letter, the absence of a mint mark, is what transformed an everyday penny into $1 million miracle. Collectors were shocked when the first discovery surfaced. A coin dealer couldn't believe his eyes. He thought it was a simple smudge, a common weak strike, maybe even damage. But under magnification, there was no trace of a mint mark ever being there. That's when the whispers began. Could this be a genuine mint error? Or was it just a fantasy made up by collectors desperate for a new treasure hunt? And then it happened. One surfaced at auction. The bidding started modest, a few thousand, then tens of thousands. But as the rarity became undeniable, the numbers skyrocketed. Dealers were calling it one of the most shocking modern penny errors of the decade. The hammer finally dropped at an amount that stunned the room, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And with later sales and valuations, the true worth of this coin has been pushed up to $1.5 million today. That's the mystery that keeps collectors awake at night. Every time someone dumps a jar of change onto a table, every time a cashier hands back coins, there's a chance, no matter how small, that one of these legendary no-mint mark 1989 pennies is sitting right there, waiting to be discovered. What makes it even more incredible is how subtle the difference is. If you don't know what to look for, you'll miss it completely. Imagine holding a penny worth over $1 million and spending it on a pack of gum. It has happened before. And it could happen again. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Reports started flooding in. Collectors claimed to have found strange no-mint mark 1989 cents in circulation. Dealers rushed to examine them. Some turned out to be fakes, coins where someone had scratched off the mint mark. But a small handful were real, verified by grading companies, sealed in protective cases, and valued at life-changing sums. One man's pocket change became his retirement plan. Another collector pulled one from a roll he bought at a bank for face value. These stories fueled the legend even more. Suddenly, 1989 pennies were no longer junk change. They were lottery tickets. First, pick up any 1989 penny and check the front, the obverse side. Right below the year, to the right of Lincoln's portrait, there should normally be a mint mark. If yours has a D or an S, it's not the rare one. But if there is no mint mark at all, not faded, not scratched off, but completely absent, you may be holding the key to a fortune. Most people confuse weak strikes or damaged coins with the real deal. The only way to confirm authenticity is to have it graded and verified by a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. That's what separates a penny worth 1 cent from a penny worth $1.5 million. And think about this for a moment. The next time you empty your pockets, that little copper coin you almost ignore could change your entire life. Hidden in your drawer, in an old coffee can, or in your childhood coin collection, the 1989 no-mint mark penny could be sitting there silently, waiting to be recognized. Collectors are racing to find them. Dealers are desperate to buy them. And yet, most of the world has no idea this coin even exists. That's the magic of numismatics. The thrill of the hunt, the chance to stumble upon something so rare it defies logic. So take another look at your pennies. Look closely at 1989. Check for that missing mint mark. And remember, every great coin discovery begins with someone just like you, staring at what seems like an ordinary coin and daring to ask, "Wait a second, what's different about this one?" Because the truth is, this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. It was just an ordinary-looking penny, struck in Denver in 1992. But hidden in plain sight, this little coin carried a secret that shocked collectors, stunned dealers, and made one lucky finder an instant millionaire. At first glance, the 1992 D Lincoln penny looks like every other copper-colored coin you've handled thousands of times. Tossed into change jars, lost in couch cushions, handed over at grocery stores without a second thought. But somewhere, deep inside the machinery of the U.S. Mint in 1992, a mistake was made. A mistake so small that most eyes would never notice. Yet that error transformed this humble penny into $1 million treasure. The story begins with a detail most people ignore: the words on the front of the coin. Look carefully at close AM, the letters in America on the reverse of the penny. In rare cases, the spacing is different than it should be. A mint mix-up created a rare, close AM, variety on the 1992 D penny, making it one of the most sought-after modern coins in existence. Collectors who spot it know exactly what they've found: a fortune hiding in pocket change. One of these rare 1992 D pennies surfaced at auction. At first, it didn't look like much. Just a worn penny, barely different from the billions of others minted that year. Yet under a magnifying glass, the secret was undeniable: the rare, close AM, detail. The bidding was fierce. Collectors and investors clashed, each desperate to own this legendary error. And when the hammer finally dropped, the coin had sold for a staggering $1.6 million. Collectors were shocked. Dealers rushed to spread the news. And suddenly, every coin jar, every pocket, every drawer in America became a potential gold mine. Could another 1992 D close AM penny be out there? Could it be sitting in your hands right now? Here's where it gets even more unbelievable. Some of these coins actually passed through everyday circulation unnoticed for years. Imagine buying a soda with a penny that could have changed your life forever. Imagine dropping one into a vending machine, never knowing that you just fed $1 million miracle into a coin slot. The thought alone keeps collectors awake at night, and yet, this is the reality. One man's pocket change became a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. But here's the catch: most people miss the clue that makes this coin so valuable. That tiny detail, the difference between close AM and wide AM, is so subtle, you could stare at the coin for hours and not notice unless you know exactly what to look for. On the rare 1992 D close AM penny, the letters A and M in America are practically touching. On ordinary pennies, they're spaced apart. That's it. One minuscule design difference worth over $1 million. But what's even crazier is how few exist. Experts believe only a handful escape the mint. That scarcity, combined with the story of one selling for $1.6 million, makes this penny legendary. Collectors aren't just searching for it, they're obsessed with it. Because finding one isn't just luck, it's destiny. You're at the kitchen table, rolling up coins to take to the bank. Suddenly you spot it. At first, it looks like nothing. Just another dirty penny. But then your eyes catch the letters A and M close together. Your heart races. Your hands tremble. Could it be? Could you really be holding the same variety that sold for over $1 million? That single second, the moment of realization, is what every collector dreams of. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins whenever they surface. Auction houses whisper their names like legends. And for good reason. The 1992 D-Close AM Lincoln penny is proof that history, luck, and fortune can collide in the palm of your hand. But here's what you need to know if you want to find one. First, don't ignore the small stuff. Every penny from 1992 deserves a second look. Second, always check the back of the coin. The spacing in America is the giveaway. If the A and M are nearly touching, you may have struck gold. Finally, don't be fooled by fakes. Many coins are altered to trick hopeful collectors. Only certified grading services can confirm the real deal, so if you suspect you found one, get it professionally evaluated immediately. But when it finally resurfaced, it shocked the entire coin collecting world. A single penny, struck in 1982 with no mint mark, became the center of an unbelievable story, and today, that very coin is worth up to $1.7 million. Now imagine this. You're digging through a coffee can of old change, maybe it's been sitting in the garage for years. You're not expecting to find much, maybe a few copper pennies to toss in the jar. But hidden among them is one coin that looks almost identical to the rest, except for one small, easy-to-miss detail. That tiny difference could turn your pocket change into a life-changing fortune. But before we reveal the secret, you need to understand the mystery behind the 1982 penny. This was no ordinary year at the U.S. Mint. In 1982, America was shifting from the traditional heavy copper pennies we'd known for decades into a cheaper zinc composition. Inflation was biting hard, copper prices were rising, and the mint made a sudden and dramatic decision. Halfway through the year, they changed the metal. This meant two types of pennies were made in 1982, the classic 95% copper cents, and the brand new zinc cents with a thin copper coating. Collectors were shocked to later discover that this sudden switch created chaos at the mint. Mistakes slipped through. Dies were reused, mint marks were misplaced or completely missing, and different metal planchets were mixed up. Out of this storm of confusion came a coin that should never have existed, the 1982 no mint mark Lincoln penny, in copper.at. First, nobody noticed. These pennies traveled silently through vending machines, cash registers, and pockets. Millions of people handled them, never realizing one of them was a hidden treasure. It wasn't until years later that sharp-eyed collectors began comparing notes, and realized that a rare combination had been struck, a 1982 penny with no mint mark, made of copper, and in pristine condition. That combination turned out to be worth a fortune, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When one of these rare 1982 no mint mark pennies surfaced at auction, it didn't sell for a few hundred, or even a few thousand, it climbed into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. And today, with collectors battling fiercely to own the best examples, some of these coins are valued at up to $1.7 million. Why? Because survival is almost zero. Think about it, pennies were everyday money. Nobody saved rolls of them in 1982. Kids spent them on candy, adults dropped them in jars, and stores gave them out as loose change. For one of these coins to survive, without scratches, without wear, without being tossed aside, is almost a miracle. That's why dealers are rushing to get their hands on any high-grade examples, and why collectors are paying record-breaking prices. And here's the part most people miss. It's not just any 1982 penny. The key is in the composition and the missing mint mark. Most 1982 pennies have a tiny letter under the date, a D for Denver or an S for San Francisco. But some pennies struck in Philadelphia that year came with no mint mark at all. Now add to that the fact that copper planchets were being phased out mid-year. That rare overlap, a no mint mark coin struck in copper instead of zinc, is what makes this penny legendary. One man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle when he discovered his 1982 no mint mark penny was copper, not zinc. His find sent shockwaves through the hobby, sparking a rush of collectors across America checking their old coins. Can you imagine the feeling? You reach into an old cigar box, test the coin, and suddenly realize you're holding a fortune in the palm of your hand. Here's the secret. First, look at the date. It must say 1982, and it must have no mint mark at all, nothing beneath the year. Second, test the weight. Copper pennies weigh about 3.1 grams, while zinc pennies weigh only 2.5 grams. That difference may seem small, but on a scale it's the deciding factor. If your 1982 no mint mark penny tips the scale at 3.1 grams, you may have just struck gold, or rather copper, worth up to $1.7 million. Now here's the cliffhanger. Some fakes have entered the market. Scammers tried to alter pennies, remove mint marks, or even replate coins to trick buyers. That's why grading and certification are essential. The professional services like PCGS and NGC have authenticated the true rarities, and those are the coins bringing life-changing money at auction. Dealers are stunned, collectors are buzzing, and the ordinary American is left with one burning question: could it be sitting in my drawer right now? Think about the possibilities. That little penny you've ignored for years, the one lying forgotten in a dusty jar, could be the exact coin that turns into $1 million jackpot. These aren't fantasy stories. They're real auctions, real collectors, real people whose lives were transformed because they noticed what everyone else overlooked. So the next time you see a 1982 penny with no mint mark, don't toss it aside. Weigh it, examine it, and if it's copper, you just might be holding one of the most valuable pennies in American history. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. It's worth nearly $2 million. Imagine tossing pocket change on the counter at a gas station, never realizing one of those coins could have changed your entire life. That's exactly what makes the 1984 D. Lincoln penny one of the most shocking, secret treasures in American coin history. Now here's the thing. At first glance, it looks just like every other copper-colored penny you've ever held. Same size, same design, same color. Abraham Lincoln's familiar face staring back at you, the Denver mint mark tucked neatly beneath the date. Nothing strange at all, until you look closer, because hidden inside a small batch of these 1984 D pennies is a detail so rare, so unexpected, it's worth up to $1.8 million. And most people never notice it. The year was 1984. Ronald Reagan was president, MTV was changing the music world, and pennies were being minted by the billions. Denver's mint machines were churning out coins at lightning speed. But during this process, something went terribly wrong. A tiny minting mistake, a flaw invisible to almost everyone, slipped past inspectors and into circulation. For years, these flawed coins circulated quietly. People dropped them in vending machines, gave them as change, even tossed them into piggy banks without a second thought. Nobody knew they were holding a small fortune. Until decades later, when a sharp-eyed collector spotted the difference, auction houses started buzzing. Dealers were scrambling to find out how many of these rare 1984 D pennies existed. And when one finally crossed the auction block, the price soared higher and higher, until jaws dropped and the hammer came down. This humble penny had just sold for a staggering fortune. Collectors were shocked. How could a coin so ordinary, a coin minted in such massive numbers, be worth millions of dollars? The answer lies in the error itself. Look closely at the word liberty. On the rare 1984 D penny, you'll see a doubling effect, what collectors call a double die error. The letters look slightly blurred, as though the engraving machine stamped them twice at different angles. That doubling makes this coin one of the rarest modern Lincoln cents in existence. And it's the reason collectors will pay life-changing money for it. But here's the kicker. Most people who come across this penny never even notice the error. They glance at the date, see the D mint mark for Denver, and toss it aside as nothing special. And in that tiny moment, they let nearly $2 million slip through their fingers. Now think about that. Somewhere out there, in a coin jar or a forgotten drawer, one of these rare 1984 D pennies could be waiting. Waiting for someone with a sharp eye and just a little bit of knowledge to discover it. One man's pocket change could truly become $1 million miracle, and that miracle has already happened. At major auctions, verified examples of this penny have sold for unbelievable amounts. Collectors whisper about it, dealers hunt for it, and ordinary people dream of finding one in circulation. But what makes the story even crazier is how few people actually know the secret. Ask the average person on the street if a penny could be worth $1 million, and they'll laugh. They'll say, It's just a penny. But collectors know better. They know that hidden within the ordinary, sometimes the extraordinary is waiting to be found. This tiny copper coin carries a lesson: never ignore the details. Never assume something is worthless just because it looks ordinary. Because in the world of coins, the smallest mistake can turn pocket change into a fortune. Here's what you need to know. Take out any 1984 penny with the D mint mark beneath the date. Hold it under good light, maybe even use a magnifying glass. Look carefully at the word Liberty, especially the letters B and E. If you see that doubling effect, the faint shadow of a second strike, you may be holding one of the rarest and most valuable pennies in modern history. But be careful. Many people mistake scratches or wear and tear for doubling. Real double die errors look sharp, with clear separation in the letters, not just a blur. And that's the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth $1.8 million. Collectors are rushing to get their hands on these coins. Dealers are paying extraordinary amounts just for a chance to own one. And all the while, ordinary Americans are unknowingly letting this treasure slip through their fingers. Remember, history is filled with stories of people who stumbled across fortune by accident. A man finds a rare coin in his grandfather's cigar box. A woman cashes in her change jar only to discover a penny worth millions. A child playing with coins in a drawer spots the doubling that adults missed. These stories sound like fairy tales, but they're real. And they could happen to you. That's the magic of coin collecting. Every piece of change you touch is a little mystery, a puzzle waiting to be solved. And sometimes, the solution is worth more than anyone could imagine. So the next time you find a 1984 D penny, don't ignore it. Hold it close, study it carefully, and remember the secret. Because somewhere in America, right now, a penny is sitting in a jar or a pocket, and it's worth $1.8 million. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million.